Sorry about that. I meant to make the stream be horizontal rather than vertical. I hope you guys can all hear me. I'm assuming that's the case. If somebody cannot hear me, please leave a comment. So I had these technical difficulties. Oh, can I rotate the orientation? Let's see. I don't think I can do it already. 1 second. I don't think so. I think once it starts, I can't change the orientation. Okay, so I'm just gonna have to stick with this. Okay, so the name of this video is the United States is Sodom and Gomorrah, and the Jews have max 10 years left here. So let's talk about this. First of all, my name is Hakham Melech Rahmiel of Karaite Insights in the World Alliance of Qara'im. And I'm currently here in the United States, soon to be heading on back to Israel in the next couple of weeks. But I've seen a lot of things and felt a lot of things since I've been back here in this country. Okay, let me just organize this. Right now I'm heading up to a farm that I go to on a regular basis in Connecticut, where I get raw milk, and they have like freshly, like they make their own fermented sauerkraut and all of this kind of stuff, you know, just good people, a good place to go, and that's where I'm heading today. And so let's talk about this idea, whether or is the United States, or I will claim that the United States is Sodom and Gomorrah. Can you guys hear me, by the way? I just want to make sure that everybody can hear me. Okay, I'm gonna have to assume so. I think so. I think that's the case. So, all right, let me get into it here and focus on what I want to say here. Okay, so first of all, I've spoken in previous videos about the rise of, I won't even call them the far right and the far left in the United States. I'm going to call them the new right and the new left. So back in the day, you had the Democrats and the Republicans. The Republicans were kind of centrist, neocon Republicans. The Democrats were also kind of centrist, and then things started becoming more polarized. So the Democrats moved to the left, the Republicans moved towards the right, culminating in the what I'm going to call the mainstream MAGA movement. Let's turn down the AC here a little bit. Right, so the mainstream MAGA movement is Donald Trump. Donald Trump is still very pro-Israel, pro-Jewish. His daughter-in-law, I'm sorry, his daughter-in-law? No, his son-in-law is Jewish. His grandkids are Jewish, right? And he's very pro-Israel for the most part. And though the Democrats have moved towards the left, you still have many of the Democrats being pro-Israel, like Chuck Schumer, senator from New York, etc. Okay, but what's happening now, and I spoke about this in previous videos, and I'm not going to focus on this in this video. That's not what I want to get at this video. Is that now you have more polarization. There's a new right that's arising. That's right of MAGA, that's right of Donald Trump. There's a new left that's arising. That's left of your classic, even leftist Democrats, left of Bernie Sanders and Chuck Schumer, if that's possible. And so on the right, I've mentioned that this is characterized by people such as, and if you're not living in the United States, I know I have some friends live from that are listening in from Israel, from Morocco, my good friends in Morocco. And so the new right is now characterized by these up-and-coming stars such as Nick Fuentes, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson. And on the left, then you have, I can never pronounce her name. Hold on, just gotta change lanes here. I am actually driving the car while I'm doing this. Alexandria Octavia, whatever the heck her name is. I was called the chick in the skirt from the Bronx. You know who I'm talking about. Ilhan Omar, etc. And these people, both on the left and the right, the one thing, they don't agree on many things, but the one thing they agree upon is their hatred of Israel. And Zohan Mamdani, the upcoming mayor of New York. I'm going to tell you about an incident that happened to me yesterday, which will illustrate this point in a second. So Zohan Mamdani, oops, going too fast here, and the upcoming mayor of New York, who's taking office on January 1st, 2026. And the one thing they all have in common, whether it's this new right, and I'm not calling them far right because they're not far right anymore, they're up and coming. The up and coming right or the up and coming left is their absolute hatred of Israel. And even though they mask it and will need to mask it for at least a little while, their hatred of the Jews. Okay? So let me tell you very briefly an incident that happened to me yesterday. So I was swimming, and after swimming I went into the sauna, and there was this guy there. Doesn't matter what his color is, but you could probably guess. I'll try to keep race out of it, but you guys can all make a good guess as to what it was. And he was talking very loudly on his phone in the sauna, and like deliberately so, and disturbing the other people there. But the other people there were intimidated by him and didn't want to say anything. And I said something. It was just too annoying, and I said to him, "Excuse me, if you want to have this phone conversation, can you just step out of the sauna? You know, you're talking too loud." At any rate, the guy started going off on me, insulting me, cursing me. It went on for like 10 minutes. I don't have to go into all the details, but it was, and I just sat there quietly, stoically. I barely responded at all because I knew where this would end. That if I responded even a bit, then I would be the one who was get blamed, and I didn't want to be the one that was blamed. I knew this was going to end up going to a manager. There was going to be a write-up by the manager, and hold on, I just want to make sure I'm in the right place here. And I knew that that if I said anything, then it was going to look like, okay, well, it's just a fight, an argument between two people. They're both wrong. They both opened up their big mouths. So I stayed absolutely silent, stoic, they call it, right? Hold on a second. I just have to get off the highway here. And so excuse me if I have to be distracted for a second. But anyway, the point is that among the many things he said, okay, he started cursing. I'll save the curse words, but he basically said, he was saying, you know who's coming into office on January 1st? Mamdani's coming into office on January. He's like yelling it like this, okay? Wait, you see what's going to happen to the white people. See what's going to happen to the Jews. It's a new world out there, mother effer, right? That's what this guy was saying, okay? Okay, you could say this was just a one-off kind of thing. You could say that this was just a crazy person, which he wasn't crazy, but, deliberately aggressive. Okay, but just think, if he's saying this out loud, just think of how many other people are thinking it and are waiting, okay? When this Mamdani gets in, it is eventually, without a doubt, going to be open season on whites in general, but Jews in particular. It won't happen immediately because Trump is in office. Mamdani's going to have to play the game for a while, but eventually that's where it's going to lead. Is it going to lead to such a thing directly under Mamdani? I don't know, but that's where the country's heading, both on the right, both on the left. There is incredible increase of Jew hatred masked as hatred of Israel, right? Because you can't say it's still not acceptable. It's getting more and more acceptable, and you hear it. Well, you don't really hear it yet outright on this new right, but you hear it between the lines, okay? There's an exponentially increasing hatred of Jews in this country. It's no doubt about it. It's not an imagination. It's not an imaginary thing. It's not something I'm making up out of my head. It's something that is palpable all over the place. And again, if one, as I said in previous videos, follow the trend lines, see where this is heading. It's becoming now more and more acceptable to call out what they call the Jewish problem. This was taboo even just a couple of years ago, and it's no longer taboo, okay? So as America starts to, or continues to crumble, and that's the other main thing I want to talk about. Hold on a second, just to see if I'm going in the right place. I am. That's the other main thing I want to talk about. As the United States of America continues to disintegrate and to crumble, excuse me, one second. As it continues to disintegrate and crumble, then this is going to be more and more prevalent. There's going to be more and more hatred of the Jews. You can call it scapegoating, but scapegoating implies that we Jews have not been active participants in causing the downfall of the United States. I don't want to get into that right now. That's maybe too controversial. speak to me in person and I'll tell you my real thoughts about it. I don't want to get banned here on YouTube or anything like that. But let's just say we're not so innocent, okay? I don't think we were so innocent back in Europe either. And when you flick the beehive a couple too many times, then the bees come out and sting. All right, I'm going to leave it at that. The other main thing that I want to talk about is the continued disintegration of the United States of America. So I was watching a video today, I can't remember the name of the channel, on YouTube. And the guy, he is an older guy, maybe in his 70s or something like that, living in an RV, living in a truck, basically. For those of you who don't know what an RV is, because again, not everyone here is from the United States, and talking about how he played did all of the rules, played by all of the rules of the United States, worked hard, saved money, bought a house, all this kind of stuff. And now has practically no money. He wasn't really complaining, actually. He was trying to explain the situation. It actually seemed like a very balanced and happy guy, and or under the circumstances, right? Very little money left, living in an RV parked somewhere in a park or something like that, in a national park or a state park or something like that. And he kept on emphasizing that he sees all around him that this is not something that's rare anymore, that this is something that is becoming more and more common. Okay, we spoke about in the previous video that something like 67% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, meaning they don't even have as much as $1,000 saved up for an emergency. They're living paycheck to paycheck. They can barely make ends meet. Costs continue to rise. Grocery costs continue to go up. Rent continues to go up. House prices continue to go up. Everything continues to go up, and people are getting into massive credit card debt. Credit card debt is at an all-time high. I can't even remember what the number is. Somewhere in the many trillions, if I'm not mistaken, of dollars. People are in massive credit card debt. They have to be in credit card debt to make ends meet at the end of the month. And this is not these are not rare phenomena. These are things that are that are becoming more and more common in the United States for people who previously lived middle-class lifestyles, are now finding themselves on the edge of poverty, on the edge of homelessness, or outright homeless, and definitely not living, definitely with very little prospects for the future in terms of their economic security, their housing security, their food security, all of this kind of stuff. Okay, so that's where we are. We spoke about this in previous videos, okay? But what I really wanted to focus on in this video is why this is happening, okay? So if you look at the fall of civilizations, there have been many civilizational falls over the millennia, and oh, hi Olivia. Okay, very good. There have been many civilizational falls over the centuries and millennia. Fall of Rome is famous. Fall of the Syrian Empire, as it was essentially conquered by the Neo-Babylonian Empire. That's the same Neo-Babylonian Empire that produced Nebuchadnezzar, who in 586 BCE destroyed the first temple that was built by Solomon. Actually, it was not Nebuchadnezzar. It was his chief of army, Nebuzaradan, mentioned in the end of the book of Jeremiah and the end of 2 Kings. At any rate, there have been many civilizational collapses. The Bronze Age collapse is another great example, although no one really knows why that happened. But the point is, they all seem to have one thing in common, and that is that, as is warned of in the Tanakh many times, that is the absolute corruption of a society. And as I always like to say, I've been saying for years, I've been saying for decades maybe, when a society goes south, it goes south in every single way. The Torah, when it mentions the vices of these other various civilizations, whether it be the Canaanites in the land of Israel, or even the Egyptians, which Egypt was destroyed as we were taken out of, as the children of Israel taken out of Egypt, then it always is the same things. It's idol worship, it's murder, it's oppression of the poor, it's adultery, meaning sleeping with married women. That's specifically what adultery means in the Torah. It's theft. I think I already mentioned theft. It's it's the Ten Commandments, basically. Okay. And when a society gets to the point where it is engaging in all of these activities, then it's not long until the society has to collapse. It absolutely must collapse. As sure as night follows day, such a society has to collapse. Okay? It can't. Just like a house that doesn't have a strong foundation, it doesn't have strong building materials, and its walls are rotting and its foundation is rotting, it's only a matter of time before it collapses. Okay? So we see already the collapse of the United States in the examples that I gave. Massive credit card debt, people living paycheck to paycheck. 67% of people living paycheck to paycheck in the United States. 25% of Americans on antidepressants. Obesity. 30%, I think, of Americans are technically or are officially obese. And there's a million other statistics. We see the collapse all around us. People are not happy. I can tell you, in this country, I don't think I've met a single happy person yet. I have a couple of them, but very few. Okay? So we see the collapse happening, and so then we can work our way backwards. We can reverse engineer it. We don't even have to reverse engineer it very far. We can look at the reasons why this collapse is happening, and we'll always get back to those same factors that we mentioned. It's always going to be idol worship, murder, theft, oppression of the widow and the orphan, oppression of the elderly, and so on and so forth. Okay, so now let's focus on American society, and I think this is one of the main purposes that I wanted, or one of the main things that I want to say in this video, and why I called it, that seems like clickbait almost, but it's not. I mean it very seriously. Why I say the United States is Sodom and Gomorrah. The more I, and I've known this, excuse me, I have a bit of a cold. I've known this for many years, or even decades. I've noticed it, right? But I think this time, back visiting the United States, it was really brought home to me. And I'll put it in simple terms, okay? In order to survive in this country, you have to be a thief. You must be a crook. You cannot survive as an honest person in the United States of America. Maybe you can in some small town that's isolated in Idaho or something like that. But in general, in order to survive in this country, you have to be a crook. What do I mean by crook? It doesn't mean you're robbing banks at night, although that maybe is not a bad idea. At any rate, it doesn't mean you're robbing, breaking into safes with sticks of dynamite at night. Okay, it means that whatever you're doing, it could be a quote unquote legal business, it could be a quote unquote legitimate business, but it's got to be some kind of scam behind it. It's got to be some kind of way of taking advantage of people. I'll just give a couple of examples. I think I spoke about this a bit in a previous video, but I'll give some examples that come to mind. Okay, number one. Okay, so let's define what it means to live honestly and fair. Okay, you provide a service or you provide a product. Okay, honestly. Okay, you do it because it does some kind of good in society, hopefully, or provide some kind of need that helps other people, and you work hard. Not as hard as Americans work, because that's another story, but you work hard and you gain a reasonable profit for your effort. What's a reasonable profit? I don't know. This is something I've thought about myself a lot over the past couple of months. 10%, let's say, okay? So maybe 20% maximum. I don't think more than 20%. So if your product, let's say you're importing, I don't know, kayaks from Sweden or something like that. I used to love to go kayaking here. Okay, and the kayak costs you $1,000. Okay, so then you charge $1,100 or $1,200. Okay, if the kayak costs you $1,000 and you charge $10,000 for it, you're just a criminal. You're ripping people off. Is it legal? Of course, it's completely legal to do such a thing. But you're a thief. You're a crook. Okay, it's not fair. It's not right. Okay, so how does that relate to the United States right now? There are many things that are being sold throughout the United States, whether it's on Amazon, whether it's in stores, which are just cheap junk imported from China or other countries, mostly China, right? That's why Trump is putting these massive tariffs on China. Good for him. I love Donald Trump. I'm a huge Trump fan, as I've said many times. Okay, but you import this junk, this absolute junk. Okay, I'll give you an example. I had to buy what was it? Oh, this thing that's holding up the phone right now, this like car holder. Okay, it says on it, made in China. It's plastic, a little bit of, whatever, a little bit of soft plastic for the suction. Who knows what it is, right? It's plastic and just junky material. It says made in China. When I bought it a couple months ago, it cost $30. Okay, I can't imagine that the total cost for this store, Best Buy, where I bought it, was more than $1, $2. I can't imagine. It's just plastic, junk plastic made in China. All of the shipping, all of the overhead, all of the things involved in bringing it onto the store, right? Paying all the workers, whatever. I don't even say it's $5 for the dollars. Okay, to produce, ship, import, pay all the workers in the stores, keep the lights on, etc. Okay, and then you sell it. You turn around and you sell it for $30. That's criminal. That is a crime. Okay, it may not be a crime in the laws of the country because the laws of the country allow for criminality. They're criminal laws, many of them, right? But it's a moral crime. Okay, to to take junk and then mark it up 6 times, 5 times, 10 times, 20 times it's immoral. Okay, you're taking advantage of other people. You're not providing a product or a service at a reasonable price. Okay, I went the other day to the vet with someone, and he brought his cat in. Okay, the charge was after I helped him knock down the charges, so he got things that were unnecessary off the list of what they were suggesting. The charge was $419. I kid you not, $419 for a checkup for a cat, plus a rabies fee, plus I can't even remember what else, 1 or 2 other small things, anti-worming. Okay, $419, and then they said they're going to send him an estimate for teeth cleaning and dentistry work, which is probably going to be another $300 or $400. Okay, so we're talking $400 to bring a cat into a veterinarian. That's not a fair price for service. I remember when I lived in Portugal, that same thing probably would have cost about 50, 60 euros max. Okay, so the whole country's gone crazy. Okay, and in order to survive in this country, you have to be a thief. You have to somehow have some kind of angle where you're selling junk at a very high price, or you're providing services at a ridiculously high price. Because if you don't, you can't survive in this country. And there are many people who don't want to live this way, who would like to just provide an honest service or an honest product, at an honest profit. But you can't. If you go around and you have something produced in the United States and then you sell it at a 10 or 20% profit, you will not survive, because you're going to be wiped out by dishonest people, by criminals, by crooks. Oh, red light. Hello. By crooks who are, bringing in junk from China and then marking it up 10 times, and it's still half the price of what you want to sell. Okay, so you're basically forced into this criminality. But there's so many other examples of how the United States is a corrupt society. I'll give a couple. There's so many that come to my mind, but I'll give a couple. So in New York City, okay, where I have the misfortune of having stayed for the past year, it has its nice parts, I gotta say, and it's good to see friends and family, of course. But there are red light cameras all over the place, everywhere, hundreds, thousands of them. You go down the street, and red light camera, red light camera, red light camera. I don't know how many there are. I think I read that the city of New York is now bringing in over $1 billion from these red light cameras every year. Okay. And of course, you can say, "Oh, it's for the safety of the children and the safety." Baloney. It's all to money out of a person's pocket, because you have no choice once you once you go through these red light. I'm not speeding cameras. Top of it per hour, even on big streets where it used to be 40 miles per hour, and it doesn't make sense. You're going down this huge, almost highway, and you're going 25 miles an hour, and it's just almost natural to speed up, and boom, red light. Speed camera. Boom, speed camera. You go nudge a little bit into the intersection, red light camera. So I drive super careful. I actually spoke to somebody today in that same sauna that I was talking about. He actually told me he used acetate to smudge or to remove some of the ink off his license plate, so that the red light cameras can't figure out, can't send the ticket back to him. Good for him. At any rate, so everywhere you go, they're just taking money out of your pocket and putting into their pocket. Now, I remember growing up, or not even growing up, when I was back in New York City 5 or 10 years ago, before I went to Portugal, there were some red light cameras here and there, some speed cameras here and there, but it was few and far between. They've increased the program to the point where it's almost on every block. So if you make one single mistake, boom, There's the speed camera waiting for you. There's the red light camera waiting for you. Each fine is $50, and you really can't fight it because I have it all on camera. Okay, so that's another example. Okay, what are other examples? You go into the grocery store. Okay, there's a local grocery store near where I live, or I should say where I'm staying, because I don't live in this country. And you go into the grocery store, and what are they doing? They're selling absolute junk. Cookies, chips, highly processed foods, to adults and to children, of course, and at high prices. Okay, so first of all, it's already, in my opinion, it's already criminal to sell poor quality food to people. If you're selling something as food and it's not food, it's just cheap junk, and you sell it to people, and that hurts them, that makes them unhealthy, it creates a disease, chronic diseases in them, whether it's heart disease, diabetes, obesity, and so on, then you're a criminal. You're not providing a good product and getting a good profit for that product. But it's completely acceptable. It's become completely acceptable in American society, and this has been exported to the world, to sell junk to people, to sell people things that are chemicals, that are just simple carbohydrates, sugars, and to slap on labels like all natural and heart healthy, and to make it look, maybe paint a little green tree on the box. You guys all know the deal, all right? Because you're either from the United States or have been to the United States, you know exactly what I'm talking about, okay? This is criminality. It's criminal. It's criminal. What's not criminal is to make a good product, okay? And, I don't know, kimchi, for instance, I like to buy, okay? And so where I'm going right now, on the farm, okay, they sell kimchi there. They make it themselves. It's a good product. It's from the local area. They ferment it themselves, and they sell at a reasonable price, like $10. That's now considered reasonable, or it's $12 maybe, or something like that. Okay, that's a fair business. That's reasonable. You're providing a good product, a good healthy product, which is the whole idea of food, is supposed to be tasty and healthy at the same time. And if it's not either of those things, then it's not food, right? So that's another example of the criminality, the corruptness of the United States of America. And it's become so normalized that we think it's okay. We think it's normal. We think it's acceptable to sell junk as food, to pretend it's food, when it's really junk. It costs pennies dollar to produce, to sell it at high prices, to get people to use all kinds of techniques, psychological techniques, advertising, to use chemical techniques. Oh, just passing right here. This is one of the entrances to the Appalachian Trail, by the way, if you've heard of it. I've gone hiking right here. Anyway, so, to pretend that something is food, and really what it's doing is poisoning people, making them have diabetes, heart disease, etc., and then thinking that that's okay because profit is essentially the religion of the United States of America. It's almost acceptable as long as you're making a profit. Really, that's you hear this all the time on the radio and on the television here. That this such company made profits. Profit is basically the god of the United States of America, because that's considered American. That's considered capitalism. But what you're doing is you're hurting other people, and you're charging them a lot of money to hurt themselves. We don't even have to get into the medical industry here. The ridiculous prices, the unnecessary procedures, the defocus on natural medicine, natural cures, on preventative cures, on living a healthy lifestyle, and all of these kinds of things. And instead, the desire just to sell people at these ridiculously high prices, drugs, pharmaceutical drugs, procedures, medical appointments, medical procedures, not the word I'm looking for, but you get the idea, okay? So everywhere you go in the society, it's corrupt, it's criminal, it's crooks, everything. You have to search things out, like I'm doing today, going to this farm. You have to search out a farm stand, or you have to search out someone down the block who bakes chocolate chip cookies, or who makes sauerkraut, or who maybe has a couple of. Search that out in order to get an honest product and an honest. If not, you're subject to people who are criminals, outright criminals, who are selling you junk, and all they care about is the money they make. They don't care about the effect of what they sell, the effect that it has on other people, on on the and on the quality of the product. They don't want to make a good, honest living for decent, honest work. They don't want to do that. They all have an angle. They all have a scam going. They all have something going to put more and more money into their pockets, and we see the results. We see the results of increased inability for people to pay their bills, increased homelessness, increased people living in dire conditions, such as I told you this YouTube channel of the guy living in his RV and he's in his 70s, even though he played by all the rules. People are becoming more and more desperate in this country because the country has just descended decade by decade from being, I think, what was kind of a fair country, pretty fair country where people did honest work and produced honest products for an honest profit, into an absolute, criminality, into just a free-for-all where everyone is trying every scam in the book to make as much money as they can, and it doesn't matter to them the damage that it does to the people around them and therefore to the society as a whole. So, and I could give so many other examples. To come to this farm, I had to go over a bridge from Queens into the Bronx called the Throgs Neck Bridge. It costs $11.19 to be exact, to cross this bridge. It will cost $11.19 to cross back over that bridge later today. It costs another $3 for some random toll on the highway a little bit north of New York City. So to go to this farm and back, just in tolls, I'm gonna have to pay $25 in tolls. Okay, that's like the red light cameras. They just take it right out of your pocket and put it into their pockets. I wish I ran a racket like that. Okay, so, and everywhere you look, food is not food in this country. News is not news in this country. Food is junk. Okay, except if you're into into organic food, and as I said, like local, going to farm stands and stuff like that. I'm talking about your general food supply in the United States. It's just junk. It's chemicals. It's processed food. It's absolute garbage. Okay, news is not news. It's really entertainment. It's sensationalist and it's entertainment. It's not even news. What are some other examples? Medical care is not medical care. The idea of medical care is to make people better, is to heal. So medical care in the United States is not healing. It makes people sick, even more sick than they already were. It pumps them up with pharmaceutical drugs. It pumps them up with operations and procedures that they don't need, and it's all sold to them in sophisticated advertising campaigns on television and elsewhere, right? So nothing is real in this country. If the purpose of food is to nourish and to provide tasty food so that families and friends can sit down and have a good meal, then the United States fails on that. If the purpose of news is to inform, then the United States fails on that. If the purpose of medical care is to heal, then the United States fails on that. If the purpose of a grocery store is to provide... Hold on, I have to make a turn here. 1 second, please. If the purpose of a grocery store is to provide good, healthy food at a fair profit, in that respect. If the food is not food, if medical care is not medical care, if nothing is real anymore except you have to search it out and go to a farm stand somewhere or go to a neighbor, then this is a complete corruption of everything that is meant to be in a society. This is a complete corruption of a country. By the way, Sodom and Gomorrah, for those who don't know, are not just mentioned in the book of Genesis chapter 14. They're mentioned in a bunch of other places. In fact, all of the major prophets, including Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel, mention Sodom. It's mentioned in the book of Lamentations. It's mentioned in the book of Amos. And in all of those times, it's never spoken about what Sodom is known for, okay, or has become known for in popular is which is sodomy, right? That's where we get the word sodomy from. So actually here, let me see if I can bring up a verse. I think I have it saved on this other phone here. Just give me 1 second. 1 second, please. Yeah, so Ezekiel chapter 16, 49.